And hello there, RosterWatch Nation. It's your friendly neighborhood trash man. And this is the garbage grab. More specifically, it's the fantasy fallout going into week 11 of the NFL season. So let's go ahead and get started with the Thursday night game. Colts at Titans. Colts won this one 34-17. A new week, a new lead back in Indianapolis. Nyheim Hines led the rushing attack against the Titans on Sunday, and he was actually the only effective back for the Colts, putting up 115 yards and a touchdown on the day. The Colts backfield seems to constantly be in a state of flux, but Hines should stay involved due to his passing game usage. He's the only Indy back I'd flex in a 12-team or smaller format this week. Michael Pittman led the Colts in receiving, bringing in 7 receptions for 101 yards against the Titans. He'll probably have a more difficult time against the Packers this week, but Pittman needs to be owned in most formats going forward, as he looks like an every week contributor for the Colts, even with T.Y. Hilton on the field. On the other side of the ball, the Titans are pretty ineffective against the Colts through the air, as could have been expected, considering the Colts have arguably the best defense in the league altogether. One item of note, though, is that Deontay Foreman had 7 carries and a scoring reception on the day. I wouldn't add him necessarily, but if he starts pushing double-digit touches, he might be worth looking into in deeper formats. On to the next game, Eagles at Giants. Eagles lost this one 17-27. Boston Scott had a big day with 74 yards and a touchdown, but the bulk of that yardage came, and the touchdown for that matter, came on one play. So there really isn't a need to add him anywhere. With 6 different Eagles getting 5 or more targets on Sunday, no one really had a great fantasy day through the air for Philadelphia, but Jalen Reagor did get the most targets with 7. He's only owned in 26% of leagues, and he needs to be added in most formats, folks. How many times do I have to say it? On the other side of the ball, Wayne Gallman outcarried Alfred Morris 18-8 and scored 2 touchdowns on Sunday as the Giants lead back. Unfortunately for those who've added Gallman, the Giants have a bye this week, so he's only guaranteed one more start in week 12, as Devonta Freeman can return from IR after that. It seems like he was running better than Devonta Freeman actually, though, so maybe he'll end up sticking in that role. On to the next game, the Jaguars at the Packers. Jaguars lost this one 20-24. Jake Luton didn't pull off the win against the Packers, but he did target Chris Conley more than any other player, and what we sometimes call the second team doctrine. Backup quarterbacks tend to target guys who they practice with on the second team whenever they do end up under center and starting. And so there you have a Luton-Conley connection. If Laviska Shenault misses time again this week, Conley could be in line for a considerable target share, although it will be against the Steelers, who you can actually pass against, though. On the other side of the ball, Marquez Valdes-Scantling had the biggest game of his career on Sunday with 149 yards and a score against the Jaguars. 78 of those yards came on one play, though. MVS will be boom or bust all season, especially when Allen Lazard returns to the field, but I'd probably rather take a chance on him in my flex than a low-ceiling possession receiver on a worse team. So there you have it. On to the next game, Washington at the Lions. Washington lost this one 27-30. And as I presume, J.D. McKissick is a target hound with Alex Smith under center, 15 targets on Sunday. He only managed to turn it into 7 receptions for 43 yards, but he did add a touchdown on the ground. With immense volume baked in on a weekly basis, McKissick is a weekly PPR flex in really all formats. 5 players had 5 or more targets behind McKissick in a valiant comeback effort by Washington. Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas were the usual suspects, but the team seems kind of intrigued by the 6'5", 220-pound Cam Sims, undrafted free agent. He's had 54 and 110 yards over the last couple of weeks, so he could be worth a look in deep leagues as they figure out how to implement him on a weekly basis. On the other side of the ball, Marvin Jones has scored 4 times in the last 3 weeks, and he's worth starting as long as Kenny Golladay is out. Marvin Hall has been startable 2 of the 3 weeks Golladay has been out, but he is big play dependent and a dicey play against the usually competent Panthers secondary this week. On to the next game, Texans at Browns. Texans lost it 7-10. Duke Johnson, 14 carries, 54 yards, was underwhelming as a replacement for David Johnson against the Browns, but with David Johnson on IR. He'll have to miss at least 2 more games, meaning that Duke Johnson is likely going to be the starter over that time. He should get more involved in the passing game this week, though, away from Lake Erie's winds. Not wins, but wins. I hope you got that. It was almost all ground attack for the Browns with heavy winds sweeping through all day. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt each got 19 carries, with Hunt getting 4 carries to Chubb's 1. It's bad news for Browns pass catchers moving forward, but it's great news for Chubb and Hunt owners as they'll both stay heavily involved with no Odell Beckham around in the passing game. On to the next game, Buccaneers at Panthers. Buccaneers won this one 46-23. Ronald Jones had 192 yards on 23 carries against the Panthers, with 98 of them coming on one play. This is after getting 3 and 7 carries over the last 2 weeks, mind you. It looks like he's back in vogue for the Buccaneers in what is a convincing win after tanking to the Saints last week. Leonard Fournette owners will just have to wait and see what this week brings, but you can't drop him yet. You could have played every starting pass catcher for the Bucs in PPR and been happy on Sunday, but Tampa won't score 46 points every week. It was an encouraging sign for Antonio Brown owners that he was second in targets with 8 behind Mike Evans, who had 11. Though the Bucs are probably going to have to throw quite a bit to challenge the Rams this week, so all of Tampa's pass catchers have another shot this week. On the other side of the ball, news is that Christian McCaffrey is doubtful for Week 11, so it appears that Mike Davis is in for another start against the Lions this week. It's not out of the realm of possibilities that Carolina could keep McCaffrey out until after the Week 13 bye. If you're already pretty sure you're going to make your playoffs, it's not a bad idea to try to make a trade for McCaffrey from a losing team, especially only if you can still make trades in your league, though. So it's fall. And at my bookie, that can only mean one thing. It's winning season. Winning season means doubling your first deposit. Winning season means free bets, super contest, survivor, and more. At my bookie, winning season is all about your chance to win big. Bet NFL, UFC, and then some. The craziest sports fall of your lifetime is here. It's simple. Make your picks, win big, collect your cash. Invest in your intuition. Select from hundreds of future bets, or you can bet games in real time with MyBookie's live betting. Put that big brain of yours to good use. Use promo code ROSTER and double your first deposit. New players get up to $1,000 in free play, designed to add more excitement to the sports you love and the games you bet. Thousands of cross-sport wagers, props, and parlays await. Sign up now to bet with the best and celebrate your victory. The winning season begins today, only at MyBookie. On to the next game. Chargers at Dolphins. Chargers lost this one 21-29. And it seems settled. The Chargers hate Josh Kelly. Even Kalen Ballage is out-snapping him 18-7. Ballage only averaged 3.8 yards per carry, though, so maybe, just maybe, Kelly will get some more run this week. It doesn't really matter. You can't play him anyway. As far as I'm concerned, Kelly is droppable outside of Dynasty or keeper formats. On the other side of the ball, Salvin Ahmed rushed 21 times for 85 yards against the Chargers, and Jordan Howard has been waived by the Dolphins. Ahmed looks like the man in the Miami backfield for the time being, so he deserves to be added if you have a running back needy team. Jakeem Brandt was the only Dolphins pass catcher to score on Sunday, as he tied Mike Gesicki for second in targets with 5 behind Devontae Parker, who had 7. With Preston Williams on IR, Grant should be serviceable in PPR formats until he returns. Maybe further. On to the next game, Broncos at Raiders. Broncos lost this one 12-37. There's a possibility that Drew Lock won't be available for Week 11 after injuring his ribs in Sunday's loss. Whether he guts it out or Brett Rippon makes the start, Miami's a strong streaming defense this week as their opponent. Desean Hamilton has scored in 2 of the last 3 weeks, but he's at best 4th in targets in Denver right now. With KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, and Noah Fant in the mix, it's going to be a crapshoot every week to see who gets the end zone action. It does look like Jeudy and Hamler are the target share kings right now, though. On the other side of the ball, Devonta Booker had 16 carries, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns on Sunday, playing behind Josh Jacobs. Over half of his carries and 2 of his touchdowns came in the fourth quarter when the game was well in hand, though. So I would not count on him getting that kind of usage against the Chiefs this week. On to the next game, Bills at Cardinals. Bills lost this one in spectacular fashion on the last play of the game, 30-32. No Bills running back saw more than 7 carries on Sunday, but Zach Moss outtouched Devin Singletary 8-5. With only one double-digit carry game and on 150-plus yard rushing game this season, Singletary can be dropped for a hot waiver pick this week. John Brown left the game in the third quarter with an ankle injury. The Bills have a bye this week, but if Brown can't go in week 12, Cole Beasley could have some value outside of PPR leagues, as he ended up leading the Bills in receiving on Sunday after Brown left. It's a lot of B's. On the other side of the ball, Kenyon Drake outtouched Chase Edmonds 17-11 on Sunday, but Edmonds still ended up with 77 yards on the day. Drake has resumed his role as lead back, but Edmonds should still see enough action in the passing game to be flexed against the Seahawks this week. On to the next game, 49ers at Saints. 49ers lost this one 13-27. Raheem Mostert is slated to return this week, so he may have seen the last of Jerick McKinnon as lead back in San Francisco. This is probably well and good, as McKinnon seems to be more effective as a change of pace back or passing down back anyway. McKinnon can still be flexed in PPR formats, while JaMycal Hasty can be dropped in most formats. Jordan Reed was second in targets behind Brandon Ayuk. Reed had 6 to Ayuk's 14, and he ran 22 routes to Ross Dwelley's 18. It took a game, but Reed is the go-to tight end in San Francisco, and he should be added in all formats. On the other side of the ball, Drew Brees has multiple rib fractures and a collapsed young, yet the Saints say he may only miss 2 or 3 games. In any case, Jameis Winston should make at least a couple starts under center for New Orleans. Winston, if you'll remember, has a cannon for an arm, but can be mistake-prone, to say the least. I think he can actually be a better asset for the Saints pass catchers, though, than Brees has been, as Brees has been dink and dunk all season. Winston will actually air it out. If Taysom Hill can be used as a tight end in your league as well, he's worth rolling with too. Guys, one of the smartest things you can do is download the Fantasy Life app. It's a free app. We use them for news alerts and community. The Fantasy Life app sends breaking news alerts faster than anyone else. They monitor thousands of reports and reporters so you don't have to, and send important news as soon as it breaks. You never miss a relevant injury, trade, or other update. The Fantasy Life app also has in-depth reports and on-demand advice from a massive community. Download the Fantasy Life app for iOS or Android at fantasylifeapp.com. On to the next game, Seahawks at Rams. Seahawks lost this one 16-23. Alex Collins led the Seattle backfield, carrying the ball 11 times for 43 yards and a touchdown against Los Angeles. It looks like both Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde have a chance of playing on Thursday night, though. So even if Collins stays in the mix, he may not be stream-worthy. Tyler Lockett came away with a bit of a knee sprain on Sunday, but apparently it isn't serious. David Moore, though, is worth adding this week, just in case, as a matchup with the Cardinals. This week is likely to be a shootout, and Moore would be a valuable fantasy asset if Lockett can't go or is hobbled. On the other side of the ball, Cam Akers led the Rams backfield in touches with 10, but Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson came away with the touchdowns, 3 between the two of them. As long as all 3 running backs are involved, it'll be a coin flip each week to determine the best play. Akers should be added in most formats, but I'm very wary of starting any of these guys unless I actually have to. Josh Reynolds led the way with 10 targets on Saturday for 94 yards for the Rams, and he's averaging 9 targets over his last 3 games. He's worth adding in deeper formats, but keep in mind that the Rams just lost their left tackle, and they face the Buccaneers this week, so he may not be the strongest play. On to the next game, Bengals at Steelers. Bengals lost this one 10-36. It was a split backfield for Cincinnati on Sunday as Samaje Perine, Gio Bernard, and Travion Williams all saw at least a handful of carries. Most of Perine and Williams' touches came in garbage time, though, so Bernard is still the advised play, should mix and miss again this week, and it looks like he's going to. A.J. Green has disappeared once again, and now he's losing targets to Auden Tate as well. From all appearances, T. Higgins is the go-to wide receiver in the Bengals offense, with Tyler Boyd picking up the slack Green can be dropped in most formats again. On the other side of the ball, the Steelers are a pass-first team these days, it seems, so they're able to support 3 wide receivers on the weekly. Deontay Johnson offers the highest floor and ceiling combination, while Chase Claypool is relying on touchdowns, but gets targeted reliably there in the end zone. And Juju Smith-Schuster is used primarily as a chain mover underneath and has the lowest ceiling of that threesome. On to the next game, the last game on the Sunday night slate. It's the Ravens at the Patriots. Ravens lost this one 17-23. And just as I thought, it's everyone's worst nightmare now that Mark Ingram is back on the field, as no Ravens running back saw more than 7 carries at 43 yards on the ground. Gus Edwards did manage to amass 73 yards on the day with help from his receiving yardage, but it's going to be a hot hand backfield from what I can tell. Willie Snead has had 7 targets and either 100-plus yards or a touchdown, in 2 of his last games. The Ravens are playing small ball through the air, and Snead is capitalizing. He's worth a PPR flex in deep leagues this week. On the other side of the ball, Rex Burkhead has scored 3 times in 2 weeks as a goal line receiving option for Cam Newton. Yes, he's touchdown dependent, but he's got a good chance to find the end zone again against a reeling Texans team this week. And even if Sony Michel returns to the Patriots this week, Damian Harris is running well enough to keep the starting job. Jacoby Myers is the only Patriots wide receiver you can consider in fantasy at this point, if you can consider a Patriots receiver, and his ceiling is fairly low in this run-first offense. So he's kind of a PPR special only. Anyway, that is it for the fantasy fallout going into week 11. Hopefully there's something that you can use there. If you like what you're hearing, if you like what you heard, leave us a comment. Find us at RosterWatch.com. And until next time, it's been the Trash Man signing off for RosterWatch.com and MyBookie.com. Until next time, be ready.